Okay, so I'm recording the session because, as most of you are aware, that I really encourage you to attend the Wednesday sessions because they're live, and what my plan to do is to summarize the chapter that you should have been working on. So it's really supposed to solidify what you've been learning during the week. So with that being said, I know that there's going to be some that can't, and so therefore I'm going to be recording them, and then I will post them inside of Canvas. So again, welcome to Nutrition 53. I'm excited to start the semester and to delve in a little bit to nutrition. Hopefully many of you have been able to get in and get the textbook, and I'm able to see that on my side. I have posted some information if you're having problems with the textbook, where you can go to get some help with the textbook and the Pearson product, because the publishing company is dedicated to making sure that you are able to get in as well. And they have their own, what they call a ambassador, who's actually a student at Fresno State that they've hired to actually help students, and he has office hours, and I posted those in the announcement. So if there's anybody that's still having problems with the book, then what I suggest that you do is really take advantage of his office hours and go in there and get some help if you need some help. What I would like to do is just kind of summarize a little bit about the immediate access program, and then also a way in which you can communicate with me. So this might be something that all of you are already familiar with, and I apologize, but there are some that I have added new to the class, and so maybe they haven't heard this before. So my apologies to review a little bit here. But just as a quick synopsis, the textbook that we have an offering for that is utilized with this book is actually right here, a picture of it right here, if you can see my screen, is Nutrition from Science to You. It's a book that is used widely through lots of different universities, and the publishing company is Pearson Publishing, and they also do chemistry and math and different areas, but they have a nutrition suite. And we use their book, and we use their portal or their homework section that is required. So if you want to try to earn an A in this course, part of what is required is for you to be inside of the My Lab and Mastering, and I'm hovering over that on my screen, where there is homework assignments for you in addition to what is inside our Canvas. And those homework assignments need to be completed. And the book that we have bundled together for you is a bundle that will give you access to the book via e-text. And then you also have access to the My Lab and Mastering portal. And the easiest way to obtain the book, and usually 98% of the time is the cheapest way to go, is to utilize the IA program, or the Immediate Access program. So for those of you that are not familiar, because this might be your first time at the university or having a course in which an instructor uses immediate access, one of the things that we know as instructors is that when students onboard and they're able to onboard early, get the books early, get going on the assignments, that they don't face that uphill battle of trying to get ahead and trying to feel like you're in the class on the track that you need to be. And so if the student can't get access to those things, then of course that's more of that uphill battle. And so what the university has been dedicated enough to do is kind of like front their credit card to the publishing company. And so the bookstore will take on the burden, so to speak, of bearing the brunt of the payment process. And then the university goes back and will bill you in about 10 days after the class has started, after you're in the course and you know, okay, yeah, I am going to complete this course. Yes, I want to buy the book. Then you don't have to do anything inside of your student portal where you pay your tuition or where you get financial aid and all of that at your My Fresno State. You will get billed. And when you are ready, you should pay. Now, the bookstore is going to stop you and want you to pay as soon as the 10 or 15 days is up. However, what I'm telling you is you're not going to be dropped from my class if you don't pay, although they might send you threatening letters that say that. That's not going to happen. But if you don't pay by the time the spring semester registration rolls around, they won't let you apply. to your next classes. So I just want everybody to know that, but you don't have to pay right away. So I don't want you to feel like, you're not going to opt into the program because you think you can't pay in the next 10 days because you still don't know where your student loan check is at. And if they're not, you're getting the runaround or whatever, just on board, don't opt out. But if you opt out, just to let everybody know, then you will not be able to access the book that way. However, you can still onboard inside here and pay Pearson directly, although the price should be very comparable. And that was why I was very adamant when we negotiated this book that it shouldn't be cheaper other places, because then it defeats the purpose. And I don't want you to spend time trying to research where you can get it the cheapest. I'd rather you spend more time in learning about nutrition. So hopefully that makes sense to everybody. I am just going to ask, is there anyone that wants to ask a question about the textbook, that wants to come off of mute and ask a question? I will give that opportunity now.
So since we registered already with the onboard, how do we find the book?
Oh, okay.
Like, is it an online book or?
Yeah, it's an e-textbook. However, if you're also a learner that wants to have a hard copy book, you can order from the publisher. I don't believe the bookstore's offering it anymore, but the publisher will allow you for like $15. They will mail you a loose leaf copy of the book itself. So it won't be like a bound copy like I have here, but it'll be loose pages, more like this, that have 3 hole punches in it, and you can take out the chapters as you wish and read them that way. But I will show you, I will get in so that you know where to go inside of the portal to see the e-text, because the e-text is very interesting. So that is actually a great question. So hold that thought for just 1 second. And I want to make sure that, is there any other questions about the book?
Yeah, I had a question. For the assignments that we do in the Pearson, like, you receive those and you like check those, correct?
Yes. So what will happen is, I haven't turned it on yet, but I have a sync. And so what will happen right now, you can go into your grade book inside of the My Lab and Mastering portal, and you can see it's auto graded for you right then and there. So you'll know that score will populate into Blackboard. I just haven't turned that on because I didn't want to overwhelm students with too much stuff going on. Plus I just haven't had the time. So I will do that, and then you'll actually see them. But one caveat that I want to make sure everybody tries to make a mental note about, and that is that when you, if you start working on an assignment and you get distracted and you only had a few minutes, and so you started it, but it's going to take longer than that to complete. When you log out, it's going to tell you your score, and it might be, they're worth, I think, 10 points each, right? So it might tell you only have 4 points. And then 4 points, when I turn the sync on, is going to show up in your Canvas, and then you're going to get a Canvas notification that says you scored 4, and then you're going to freak out and be like, no, but I'm going to go back and do it later. It knows that you can go back in later and it will update. But sometimes the syncing process takes, I think it probably only syncs every 6 hours or so. I tell students every 24 hours just to be safe, but I'm pretty sure it syncs more than that. But so then once you go back in and finish it, it will give you the score, and then you'll get your 10 or your 9 or whatever it is that you're going for. And then eventually, within about 6 hours, that score inside of Mastering will go back into Canvas. But students get worried right away when they don't see that. So I'm really glad that you brought that up.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right, any more questions? Because I'm going to go into it, but I need to stop. I'm going to forget, because that's just me, if I don't talk about this part right here. So is there anybody last minute questions on book?
Yes, about mastering chemistry. I believe you're telling us that how many tries do we get to do the quizzes on mastering chemistry?
Yeah, okay, so I just want to make sure that, because there is a Mastering Chemistry, which is probably for your chemistry class. This one will say My Lab and Mastering Nutrition. So in the Mastering Nutrition, in my portal, the way that I should have it set, so if it's not, I want you guys to tell me, is that you can take as many tries at it as you want as far as like hints, and I'm not going to take points off. But what I will do is I will give you extra credit if you don't take the hints. So if you can go through it, read the book, do it without needing the hints, then you can actually score better than 10 on your assignments. Now, it is quite possible, because I copy them from year to year, if I copied the wrong year, then that I may not have that turned on. So if you're getting deducted for taking a hint in chapter 1, let me know and I will fix that on my side. Is that the case?
Yes.
Okay, then let me fix that, and I will fix that so that you don't get that, and specifically moving forward, that will not happen. I will fix all of them. Once I fix one, it fixes all of them, so that you will, if you take a hint, you're not gonna lose points, but you don't have the opportunity to have kind of like extra credit points. Okay, so let me make myself a note that I need to fix the points, and I will do that. Okay. All right, anybody else?
I have a question.
Go for it.
I don't know, like if you can answer it or any of my peers, but for some reason I can only access the book in my sister's computer and not on my iPad. So I don't know if anyone knows how to fix that.
Okay, so here's what this is a perfect segue into the next thing that I want to talk about, and maybe I can help you with it as well. So my suggestion is, my feeling, and the one thing that I get mad about this textbook publisher is that they try to be platform friendly to all platforms. However, in my opinion, I don't believe that they are. I don't think that they like Mac OS operating systems. And so I have a Mac and I have an iPad, and everything's Mac for me. And I have a hard time accessing it through Safari. So first of all, their go-to is Google Chrome. So I've had to download Google Chrome on all of this stuff and try to access it that way. Usually when I do that, 9 times out of 10, whatever the problem was happening is that. Again, might be something with the pop-ups on the looking for that and seeing if that could be the situation. But what I want you to do, if there's other people that have any other suggestions or we're having the same thing, this is the perfect opportunity. I want to direct your attention to the question cafe right here. So what's been happening over the last week is that I'm trying to get our course ready, and I want it to have a lot further along than I have it right now. But part of that is because I'm getting individual questions and emails from students, and I don't want to ignore them. But at the same time, if I have to answer everybody's question, then I get no work done. And so I have built this question cafe where students could ask that type of question here, and maybe their peers could answer that faster than I can. Plus, then if I don't have to answer it, then you guys can move on faster, and then I can get the stuff populated inside of the course that you want to have, so that I'm not throwing things on you last minute. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is because we haven't really had a lot of students taking advantage of it. In fact, there's only been one student. But what I can tell you is the amount of emails that I've gotten from this particular class is well above 50. So let's try to take advantage of this. Now you can see that I went in and I act as a moderator, and I will answer questions if students aren't able to help you with it. But in the meantime, and like in your specific case to this, there might be a student that has the exact same problem that you do. So post it here, and then if you subscribe, then you will get updates every time people are asking questions. And then you as students can go in and either help them out, or maybe you had the same question. A lot of students are asking me the same question. And so I just want to, this is a better place for everybody if we can get in the habit of using this. But I also understand this is not normal to people, and the normal reaction is, oh, let me email my instructor. So I'm totally fine with that, but I want to be present with you in this class as much as possible, since we're only having one class meeting, that if I have the whole class meeting and now I've spent 15 minutes answering questions, which is okay because I expect that in this first part. But what I'm saying is, if we could put that into this particular area, we could actually have more learning in our small learning time that we have. So thank you for bringing up what you had. And then I will also say, if anybody else has an experience just like your fellow student where they can access it in one place but not the other, and specifically even with those types of operating systems, please feel free to put something out here to help your fellow students out. Okay, all right. Now, I think then I've covered all of the housekeeping. What I would also like to do is to notate that my office hours, for those of you, you can book office hours with me if you need some individual time. And it's very, very easy to do that if you just go into our modules and you go to my bio page right here, or you can do it from the syllabus too. There's a link inside of that, but you can actually just book virtual office hours right here. So I have office hours today from 11 to 2. So if you have some time and a question, please look and see if I have availability today or tomorrow, and we can book some time to talk to you. Okay, and then when you're ready, once you have that, then this is the link that you join, is my personal virtual office hour link, okay? All right, so now what I'm gonna try to do, because I'm getting nervous that I have 17 slides that I wanna talk about with you, that I wanna summarize the important parts. What I do and this is kind of how I want you guys to feel about the course, is that on the Wednesdays, the important part and kind of the carrot to get you to log on is I'm going to try to be summarizing the course for you today so that the exam is due tonight at 11:59. My idea is that you take the exam after we've had our course today, because what we talk about today will solidify everything that hopefully had been covered, or a lot of the majority topics that I feel is important for the exam. And then you take the exam and you probably will do better. And again, with the exam, you can take the exam more than once. So even if you wanted to take it yesterday, come to class today, take it again and see if you can do better. That's totally fine, however you guys want to do it. But the way that I have it set up is that everything will be due for that chapter after my last live session for that particular chapter. So for right now, we're going to handle chapter 1. Now, some of the activities that have been inside of the module area, some of you have already completed. And this is what I was telling you, is that unfortunately, I think it was yesterday or even the day before, I posted some things like this one here, I posted late because I wanted to have that up over the weekend, but because I was dealing with so many emails and getting everything, and I was behind and I didn't get that activated for you guys. So that might be something that some of you haven't seen if you haven't been inside of Canvas for a couple days. So, but it's due tonight. And if for some reason you can't make it tonight, what I want you to know right now is that I am not one of these instructors. I understand that is I will take ownership in the fact that I put that up late. So if you can't get it in the next, by the end of tonight, don't worry, I'm not gonna mark you late, okay? I want you to get it done and let me know that you need to get it done. But I'm not going to mark you off because that was my fault for not getting it up sooner, okay? But try to get all of this stuff done in here so that after our live lecture today, you can take the exam right here. And again, make sure that your mastering assignments for this chapter are also completed. So sometimes Canvas will remind you of them in your to-do list, but also keep in mind you have to go into the mastering portal to complete these ones here. Okay, so with that being said, now what I'm going to do is try to put up my slideshow, and I want to see which slides you're going to see. Okay, you're not seeing any because I need to stop sharing that screen. And I need to switch my screens. I have 3 screens, and I apologize. I get overwhelmed sometimes, but boy, I love 3 screens. Okay, so thumbs up if you can see the PowerPoint that says nutrition science, from science to you. Okay, awesome. That means I'm in the right screen. Okay, and I have hit record. So that was my reminder for me. All right, so what are we going to talk about right now? What I need to talk about is these things here. And so when you were reading the chapter, the beginning of the chapter, oh, see, shame on me that I need to go back. There were some of you that wanted to know how to access the e-text, and I said I would do it after. See, that's my ADD. Hang on, I'm gonna pull this back up. Move that over there. Yay, you guys could see. Can you see my mastering or no? Am I, thumbs up if you can see the Canvas page now. No? Yes, okay, thank you. Okay, so when you go into My Lab and Mastering, when you wanna find the e-text, because there's actually a really cool feature of the e-text, and that is that it reads to you and stuff like that. Like, and you can take notes and all sorts of stuff. So if you've never used an e-text before, so when you come here, this is the course homepage where you can get your course calendar and all that here. But if you look over here on the left-hand side, this is where it says e-text. So this is where you're going to go to get the book. Okay. There's also the My Diet Analysis, which we'll talk about later at a different time. But now what you can do is you can view the e-text. And so now you can get into the actual book. The other thing that I can tell you is that Pearson, one of the reasons why I chose Pearson is because Pearson has an option too, where you can buy, you go to your app store, you're not buying it, it's free. And what you can do is download the Pearson Higher Education app, and you can put that app on your pad, on your wherever you want to put it. And then you can have access to the e-text without having to have access to the internet. And I think that that's key for a lot of people, especially even in my house right now. I want to tell you that if the call gets dropped, I can't tell you enough how many times I've been dropped out of my own Zoom class. And you guys just hang tight and I'll be back. But hopefully that doesn't happen, because I had to buy these darn extenders and we put the extenders in yesterday. So hopefully that doesn't happen anymore. But all I'm saying is I understand people's internet issues a little bit, because I struggle with my own. And I have my own child who's trying to do online education and my husband who's working from home. So I do understand that there are sometimes way too many people on your internet and it can really crash it. So the textbook can be downloaded into that app, and then you can have access without being on the internet. So anyways, here's the book, and here are some of the options out here. And so here you can make it bigger, but let me see if this is where the read speak is going to be at. Where's my read speak? There's a read speak option where you can actually have it read to you, and you can highlight and take notes and things like that. So I encourage you to get in. But hopefully now this makes it better, where you can at least, once you go here, this is the whole book. So hopefully now everybody knows how to get the book. So my apologies for diverting, but I wanted to make sure that we all have that. Okay, so now looking at that, again, everybody should please thumbs up if you can see what drives our food choices. Okay, thank you. All right, so inside of the chapter, inside of the book, this was the beginning part of the chapter. And this was why I was asking you a little bit about what does nutrition mean to you? And we were starting to look a little bit at, you know, nutrition, and is it a food choice, and are these different things? So I did put in a interactive poll. So let me see if I can get my poll to come up. So I'm gonna launch my poll. And now this has everything to do with the food choices. So please go ahead and hopefully on your screen, you can see my question. Are we good with that? Very good. I see about 30 responses out of 61 people. So very good. Keep going. Okay, it looks like we have about 95% of our students have actually voted, so that's good. And the good news is, I don't know if you can see when I hit end poll, will it show the results? Share results. Okay, so now you can see the majority of people did get that right. And that this question is a question that would be very, very similar, if not exactly the same as what might be on your exam. So that's the reason that I'm starting to pull these in for you guys to see these and to get comfortable with them. And so again, attending today's session means that you have a very good chance of getting this particular question or a question very similar to it right on the exam. Okay, so let me move my poll. Okay. There we go. Now I'm going to click back in here. Now, the other thing that was a big topic inside of the chapter was it talked about the 6 major classifications of nutrients. 6. So when you see a question on the exam, how many are there? There are 6. okay? And these are them right here. And I put this slide up because some people are visual learners. So this was actually a table that was in the chart. So for some of you that don't read, they only read the actual text and don't look at the chart, I think that this helps people really solidify what we're talking about here. And then specifically, if there was a test question that asked you, are there ones that are organic or inorganic? This helps solidify, these are the inorganic and these are the organic. And what makes these ones organic is that they all have a carbon molecule to them, okay? So something that's inorganic is not going to have that. So these two are not. But when we start to break down, we will look at in every single chapter, chapter 4 is carbohydrates, chapter 5 is lipids, chapter 6 is protein, the next chapters are vitamins and minerals and waters. It goes on. We are going to cover every single one of these in depth in a chapter. So it's very important that you understand that there are 6 for the purposes of the exam, and which ones are organic and which ones are non-organic or inorganic. Okay, the other thing, see how this is very bolded? The reason that I'm bolding these is I feel that these are extremely important, A, because we're going to be carrying them through the semester, but also because these you're going to need to know for the exam. There will be a math equation on the exam, so that's what I'm trying to get to right now. And what you need to know and would have already hopefully read about is that when we look at the macronutrients, so there's 6 of them, 3 are macronutrients, okay? The macronutrients are carbohydrate, protein, and fat. So when I call them macros, I'm talking carbohydrates, proteins, and fat. And when we look at them, carbohydrate, what we know is, what are kilocalories, right? It talked about them in the chapter, but that's our fuel, right? That's our gas that's going to get us going. And so when we look at this, how much fuel or gas do you have in your tank based off of which macronutrient it is? We're looking at carbohydrates being 4 kcals per gram. Protein is 4, so these are similar. But look at fat. Fat is 9. So what does that mean? I'm wanting you to start exercising what we call the critical thinking ability that hopefully some of you when you're enrolled in college are trying to look for, right? And that's what we as instructors want to make sure that you have this ability to critical think when you're done with our class. So what I want you to be thinking about, hopefully, and what pops into your mind is, wow, fat, you get more bang for your buck, right? That's what that means. That means that fat is double the amount of calories for the same amount of grams. And hence, people know this on the fact that they know when they eat fat, when they eat more higher fat meals, that they gain more weight, right? This is that part. But if you were able to see that and deduct that, then hey, we're doing really good. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't put this up here because a lot of you are interested in this one, right? I was a college student at one point too. And that is the fact that this is alcohol. And alcohol is considered a non-nutrient. It is not a macronutrient, okay? It provides no nutritional value. However, it does provide kilocalories. And so for that, I want to put it in here. And I really want you to see that when we look at alcohol, it is 7 kcals per gram. So when you wonder why people get a beer gut, this is why, because it's very similar to just dumping fat down your throat, okay? And I am saying that, and I want you to laugh, but I really want you guys to understand that too, that the calorie-wise, it's very steep on the calorie part of it, okay? All right, now, this is the part that I want to make sure that we all feel very comfortable with because this is what is going to be on the exam, okay? And so when we look at the exam, you will have a math equation. So you will need to make sure that you have your calculator, whichever, I use old school, but you can use your phone, whatever you want to use. And we need to be able to solve this particular problem, knowing those numbers that we just had before. So when we look at this, what this is saying is that anybody out there ever ate a bag of chips and a soda, right? Most of us have. So, well, normally you can just look on the label, but let's just say there was an apocalypse or a pandemic, and maybe now all of these things are not available to us and we can't find these things out, but you're going to eat a bag of chips and you're going to know a few things about the bag of chips, okay? So you're going to know that there's 144 grams of carbohydrate between the two. So you've added them up. And now you know that there's 144 grams of carbohydrate. You know that there's 12 grams of protein. And really the protein's only coming from the chips. Okay, there's no protein in soda. And then 60 grams of fat, which are also really coming from the chips. So soda has no fat and no protein. So what does it have? It has carb. And guess what? When we don't use that carb all up, guess where it goes? It does get stored as fat, and we'll talk about that later on. Okay, but for the purposes of this is what I want you to be able to do. is to know that if I have 144 grams, remember there were 4 grams per kilo. So when we do this, what's going to cancel out? The grams right here are going to cancel out, and this number right here is going to give me the kcals. So when you take 144 and you times it by 4, you get what? 576. You do the same thing for what? What is the 12? The 12 is the protein, and then this is the fat, right? And remember, it's 9. Okay, that's how come I knew that one was fat right away, besides going up and looking at it, is that because it was the 9. So oops, hang on. All right, that gives me a total of 1,200 calories almost, so 1,164 calories, just from chips and soda. And some of you might not know if that's, what is 1,200 calories? Well, I will tell you this, that because of my age and my activity factor, my body really only needs about 1,300 to 1,500 calories a day. So guess what? Chips and a soda, I'm out for the rest of the day. I have a very small amount of calories left for the rest of my day. Now, the good news is for you guys, you get more calories than I do because you're younger, and you have more energy, and some of you actually are much more physically active than I am. But in that note, I want you to understand, when we're looking at this, what does this mean, and what do I want you to do with this? This is where that next part comes in. Then what you're going to do here is take, this is what? 540 was the amount of what? How many calories was that? That was the calories coming from fat. So if we wanted to look at this and see 540 calories divided by the total calories, and then to get it into a percentage, everybody knows, right, to multiply by 100, it is 46% fat. So when you eat chips and a soda, it's 46% fat. Now, that's not brain science. Most people know that. But if you can use this premise on everything that you eat and put in your mouth, then you have a better understanding of, am I eating something that is nutrient dense or calorie dense, which is, we're going to talk specifically in the next chapter about calorie density. So this is moving us into that direction. Okay, now what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to put you all in a breakout session. It's 9:34, and what I want you to do is I want you to work on this problem, because this is also, again, going to be very similar to what's going to show up on your exam. So I'm going to put you into some smaller breakout rooms. You'll have a couple peers with you, and I want you to work through this. And so you might want to take a screenshot of this. You might want to take a picture with your phone right now, something so that you have how much this is, because I'm not sure if I can get it to show in the breakout room or not. I haven't been that good with breakout rooms, but so we'll see. So we're going to have a slice of whole wheat bread. This is what it contains: 1 gram of fat, 18 grams of carbs, and 4 grams of protein. I need you to be able to work with your peers and tell me how many kilocalories does it have. And then I also want you to do the percentage of protein. The last one in the example gave fat. This time I want you to calculate protein. So I'm going to put you into your breakout room. We're not going to do this for more than 5 minutes. So it's 9:35 right now. I'll put you in breakout rooms. By 9:40, we're all going to come back together. Okay, and I might pop into the rooms to see how you guys are doing. So let me go ahead and okay, so there'll probably be about 3 of you each per group, okay? So, all right, here we go. I'm gonna create these breakout rooms, and then I'll bring you guys back. 5 minutes. Okay, so some of you are still out there. Some of you are coming back. We're just waiting for the rest of us to trickle in. So we got about 20 seconds left on that. Okay, All right, so now we have everybody back in our main meeting room, and hopefully you had an opportunity to actually solve it. Anybody, if you could just give me thumbs up if you guys were able to solve it, if you had enough time or it was not enough time. Okay, thumbs down, not enough time, thumbs up, it was okay. All right, thank you for that. Okay, so let me go here and see if you guys want to see if you solved it correctly. Now, the other part of that is if you did not solve it correctly, that I want to make sure that you know how to solve it correctly. So what I'm going to do very fast is try to share my screen. From my iPad. Let me see. Okay. So this should be good. Now, please also give me thumbs up if you can see. You should be looking at my iPad now. Are we all seeing my iPad with some chicken scratch on it? Yeah, thank you. Okay, so the first thing we gave you is we said, and carbohydrate, for those of you that haven't had any of your chemistry or science classes yet, is CHO abbreviated. So what I have here is that there was 18 grams of carbohydrate. So what do I need to do with that is now what I need to do is multiply that by what? How many kcals per gram did we learn for carbohydrate? And most of you should be thinking 4 grams per, oops, my pen doesn't always work. Okay, so here, and that should then be giving us our total. So when we look at that, what's going to cancel out here are obviously the grams here and the grams here. So it's going to leave it in whatever's kcals. And so I'm going to take my 18 times it by 4, and that's going to give me 72 kcals from the carb. Now, what do we have to solve for next? We can solve for protein. So what did we say the amount of protein was in it? So there were 4 grams of protein, and just like carbohydrate, protein is pro. So now I'm going to times that by, it's the same number, right? 4 kcals per kilogram. So now I'm going to go 4 grams per kcal of protein. And what is that going to give me? The good news here again is that this is going to cancel the grams, and it's going to leave me with 16 kcals. And then I'm going to do it for what? My favorite, fat. So when I looked at fat, how many is fat? 1 gram, thankfully, is fat. So I'm going to take that times, and what number am I going to use this time? 9. 9. Very good. 9 grams per kcal. And so then what is that going to give me? So that gives me 9 kcals. So now when I add 9, 16, and 72, I should get 97. And that is what I'm showing was the answer. Okay, so that is good here. But what do we need to do? What else did I ask you to do? The last part was now to look at what percentage would be protein. So remember in that one, the protein is this number here. So we're going to take the 16 kcals and we're going to divide it by the total kcals, which was 97 kcals. And then whatever that is, we're going to times it by 100 to get it into percentages. So when I do that one, I get 16 divided by 97, and that is 0.164. And then I times that by 100, and that gives me 16.49, which is just under rounding up rules, right? So we're going to say 16%. Now, if you went with 16.4, that's fine. When I would give you an exam, I wouldn't make it confusing like that where it would be 2 different choices. The choice should be obvious. I want it to be obvious enough. Okay, so hopefully thumbs up that everybody now understands this. If you don't understand this, thank you for that. This is an opportunity where I want you to know this is what my office hours are for. This is what I will be doing with students. If they need help with something like this is my role. This is what I'm here to do, is to help you learn. Okay, so now let me try to unshare that screen. Okay, and go back to my PowerPoint. Okay, so you should hopefully be seeing my PowerPoint, although I don't see my green strip around it. Do you see my PowerPoint? Please thumbs up on that one. Okay, thank you. Okay, so I have a few more slides that I want to get through. We have like what? 3 minutes left, 4 minutes left? Okay, so please make sure that you understand this course is nutrition and health. And so what we're looking at is what are nutrition-related health diseases. And so when we look at this, these are the top 10 killers among Americans, right? And of the top 10, we have 4. So if there was a test question, how many is it? It's 4 that are nutrition-related. And when we say that, they're also nutrition-related and preventable. So why do we have this many killers among Americans that are nutrition related, and we still have problems with nutrition? And so that's hopefully the premise behind this course. Okay, now the other thing though is that maybe some of you are starting out and you may not know what you want to be when you grow up, and that is totally fine. I didn't know what I want to be. I went to community college because I was clueless. So I didn't know what I want to be. And what I want to share with you hopefully is that nutrition might be an area that interests you. After taking this course, we have students that change their major, and that's kind of the point of this course. This is why it's a lifelong learning course, to teach you about nutrition. And if you have a passion and you have a passion for science, these two might be something that you want to intermingle. And specifically where I see the most need and the most newest research coming out is in what we call nutritional genomics. So I want to bring that up because nutritional genomics is extremely interesting. So I don't know if some of you know this, but have you ever had a friend, and maybe it's you, maybe you're the friend, that when you have caffeine, it makes you so jittery. And then you have someone else who has caffeine that's a friend of yours, and they're like, I can drink caffeine right before bed and I can go right to sleep. So there are 2 different types of people. That is a gene that does that, okay? We actually can tell now which people are going to be more sensitive to caffeine than others. That's interesting stuff. Well, we can start to really look at our nutrition and health profiles specifically based off of that. And so I just want you to keep that in mind, that that's an area if you have an interest in that. Now, the last thing that I really need to get to in 2 minutes is when we do nutritional assessment. Okay, there is going to be, I'm going to post up a little bit more about the things that are necessary for nutrition assessment. If you are a nutrition major or thinking about nutrition, or even a nursing major, science major, anybody that's taking this course also to correlate for some of their major core classes, please go back and watch this. I will post this later today. I did it for another class, but it applies to this one completely, and it talks about how do we assess nutritionally. But the other thing that I want everybody to know for the purposes of the exam is that registered dietitian nutritionists, or RDNs, which is what I happen to be, are the ones that spend years doing research on nutrition and learning more about nutrition. And in order to be a dietitian, you actually have to have a degree. So if you want to call yourself a nutritionist in California, you cannot. You need to have a degree to do that, okay? Not every state is the same, but what I want you to know is that we spend our entire undergraduate and then 1,200 supervised practice hours after, just like doctors have residencies, we do a residency that's 1,200 supervised practice hours. The average doctor going to medical school gets 4 hours of nutrition, 4 hours. Okay, so I'm not saying doctors are not smart, because they are, but they have to learn about the whole body. We specifically spend time looking at nutrition, and we are considered the nutrition experts. So if you saw a test question about that, I want you to be aware. Registered dietitian, nutritionist. Okay, now these are those things of assessment I talked about. Last thing I want to point out, when we are talking about, and if you have to leave because it's 9:50, that's totally fine with me if you are filing out of the class, but I want to cover this last thing. I posted another activity about Oreo cookies being as addictive as crack cocaine. Some of you have already done that. If you have, thumbs up to you. But what I'm trying to get people to do is to look at this whole scientific method, okay, and what we use for scientific method. The textbook uses this example. It uses the example of rickets, okay? And it talks about when we have data, and a lot of you are learning about this because of COVID, and we have studies going on with COVID, right? what do we need to do to have kind of this gold standard type of research? So I want you to just familiarize yourself with this. But in this particular case, when the book was talking about this, this is rickets. This is bow-leggedness. If you know someone who's bow-legged, it is because they have rickets. That's the diagnosis. But what we had to find out is what was causing rickets. And so what they did was they formulated this hypothesis that said, oh, it must be because we would give them cod liver oil. And when we would give them the cod liver oil, the rickets disappeared. So something in the cod liver oil is helping them. Well, they're doing the same thing with COVID, right? They're trying to do all these different things with trying to figure it out. So here's what they do. They do this experiment. And of course, we start off on rats before we do it on humans, although COVID, they're starting right on humans, right? They did some rats too. But okay, so we're going to feed the rats cod liver oil that contains no vitamin A, because they thought, their hypothesis was that it was the vitamin A in the cod liver oil, because it's very high in vitamin A, that must be what's doing it. But guess what? So when they gave them the cod liver oil that contained no vitamin A, the rats still got better. So they had to go back and reformulate their hypothesis to figure it out, okay? And guess what? It wasn't. It was vitamin D, for those of you that are still with me. Vitamin D is what causes rickets. So if someone has a lack of vitamin D, then that's when they develop rickets. Okay, so this is how that scientific process works. I made a little note right over here that you should know the difference between observational and epidemiological research for the purposes of the exam, and then also, of course, because if we're looking at COVID. Now, once we have all of that, then this is that scientific consensus part. It's very important. This is my last thing to talk about. And that is that when we have a hypothesis that's supported, the first thing that we have to do is publish findings. Then we need to develop a theory, and then that's when we establish consensus. And that's what the whole political problem is right now when we start to look at this COVID thing, right? That there's people that are very worried because we want to get to this consensus, but they're saying you have to do all these things first. And so it gets kind of interesting. So I hope that you at least find that. But when we do nutrition research, we do the same exact thing. And the gold standard for any study, specifically even in nutrition, is when we do the double-blinded placebo-controlled study. Okay, most of you have heard now about that in the news, so I'm not going to spend time on that, but do spend some time on studying this for the purposes of the exam. Okay, I am all done. Thank you guys for staying. I know you didn't have to, and I appreciate that. I am going to have this recorded. It is being recorded, so I will get it up and published to the website hopefully this afternoon. Depends on how my office hours go if I get it up today. But if you need to go back and watch this again before you take the exam, that's perfectly fine. But know that your exam is tonight, and then moving forward, I'll have more activities for chapter 2, and then you'll start working through chapter 2. Okay?
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. See you next week. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.